So I'm going to start, and then we will throw it to the two of us. Ready?
Yep.
Hey, it's my vocal warm up.
You need one of those little things that they have in church where you go.
it's it's a pitch pipe, and no, I do not. Oh shoot! Here we go. Oh, I gotta mute you. I forgot. Okay. It's the Mania After. I'm gonna try that again because the microphone fell down. Hang on. Stay where you belong. Microphone. Okay, here we go. It's the Mania After WrestleMania, the biggest show of the year. What happened on Monday Night Raw, and how does that shape the future? We have all of the coverage from both of those shows and more coming up on this edition of the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast. The bomb drops now. Okay, here we go. Hello and welcome to this edition of the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast, the show that is for the fans, by the fans. I'm your host, Mr. Podcasting, Chris Belcher, and joining me back from the dead, back from somewhere in Kentucky, we have found him. He is no longer MIA. The whole podcasting show, Mr. Jared Justice. Man, where you been?
Technical difficulties, I guess. That's all I know, man.
Well, we definitely missed you this weekend for WrestleMania. Jared was unable to join us for all of our live streams because Jared had some work obligations that came up last minute that he was unable to get out of. Hey, man, that's the price of getting promoted and being a top dog there. So I hate it, but, you know, the show must move on. But we are going to throw it to you. We're going to talk about the fallout of WrestleMania. You thought, what I thought after I've had a couple of days to chew on it, what happened on Raw, and how that shapes the future. Before we do, though, we got to remind all of our fabulous listeners how and where to find us. We are available, the audio version of our podcast, wherever you find your podcast. That is on Apple Podcasts, that's on Spotify, that is anywhere that you get your podcast. Make sure you follow us on social media. There's my personal handle below, but you can follow the show at PBW Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Make sure you check out our live video versions of the shows on YouTube, on Twitch, all the good things. We came to you a lot this past weekend with WrestleMania. And we want to do that a lot more when we have pay-per-views. So make sure that you check us out. Also, ProWrestlingTees.com/PBW podcast. Buy yourself a fancy shirt just like this one. There's a couple more designs on there. Here's a good plug for you. Let me see if I can get this up. I'm still learning how to use this thing, folks. Bear with me. Here we go. ProWrestlingTees.com/PBW podcast. Use the promo code starting today at noon. Spring Fling, 20% off your entire order. Make sure you do that. That is a heck of a deal, especially if you buy more than one t-shirt. So buy yourself more than one t-shirt. Use that promo code Spring Fling. It is there on the screen. If you are watching, maybe 3, maybe 4, 5 if you want.
Woo!
5 times. Woo! There you go. Promo code is on the screen if you're watching the video version. If not, make sure Spring Fling, make sure you use it. Starts at noon today and runs all the way through the weekend. So we have all of the logistical stuff out of the way. Let's get to WrestleMania. Now, for full disclosure for everybody listening, we record our episodes on Tuesday nights. This week, NXT premieres on Tuesday night. So we'll be throwing in some NXT for you. We've got it on our screens, so we'll throw some stuff in for you. But let's get to WrestleMania, man. It's officially in the books. You know, like I said earlier, you weren't able to come down. We had a blast. We did some recaps. If you guys have not watched those recaps or listened, they're available on all of our feeds, the YouTube version, the Twitch version, all the things. Jason Backowitz, our awesome partner on the podcast. He joined us. Mr. Andy York, probably the most appearing guest in the history of our podcast, showed up. He was on both episodes. So thanks to those guys for hanging out, doing those live streams with me. Since you weren't here, man, I gotta get your take on WrestleMania. Overall, two major nights. What was Pick one thing. What was the single biggest thing that stood out to you that night? Or for both nights, rather, not just one night, both nights.
Oh man. I guess the thing that stood out the most was that we did not see Becky Lynch.
Ooh,
Man,
yeah,
I was pretty excited, pretty pumped, pretty hopeful that that was going to happen, and it did not. But other than that, of the things that did happen, I mean, you had Hulk Hogan in like a pirate suit. He looked ridiculous.
that was insane.
But the main event of night two, man, I told you, and you strongly disagree, and so do a lot of people, based on the podcasts I've listened to and the news that I've read. Night two, man, you could have had night two, in my opinion. Not even had night one. I mean, the Sasha match, I did like it. Bianca Belair, they put on a heck of a performance. But
Yeah, they did.
other than that, you could have had night two plus the Sasha match and called that WrestleMania, and I would have been just fine. Night one, to me, it was no. To
To
me,
me.
it was almost like a glorified episode of like SmackDown that was really good, or
Really?
Raw. I mean, not so much Raw, maybe, but SmackDown that was really good. And but night two, I loved. I thought every match hit. I mean, I love the main event, the triple threat.
Yep.
I mean, that was unbelievable. Um,
Would you say that was probably your favorite match of both nights?
oh, hands down, hands
Yep.
down. Yeah.
Yep. I think so too. I'm surprised that you didn't talk about this, the Cesaro and Seth Rollins match from night number one. Man, I thought that match really stole the show the first night. I would honestly put it a little bit above Sasha and Bianca. Just a
Um,
little bit.
Not so much here. Now, I will say that after watching that match, it really, really made me want to get that new Seth Rollins figure
Right?
with him in the Rey Mysterio gear. I was
Yes.
like, oh, gotta have
Yes.
it.
I
Um,
know.
but you know, we've seen so much with Cesaro, and they get my hopes up, and then it just all comes crashing down. And
Sure.
if this is truly the start of a Cesaro push, then yes, I think that was awesome. But again, it's almost like it was a glorified SmackDown. Is anything going to come of it? I don't know.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's very true. What were your thoughts on Drew and Bob? We kind of figured that they were going to lead off the show, but Bob retaining the title. I know we kind of speculated on that. What were your thoughts on that match?
I mean, if they're going to continue to push Bob, then this is the correct way to do it. You had Drew pass out, for an amount of time, and then Bob wins. So, I mean, technically, that's like a TKO. That's a
Right.
submission. He passed out.
Right.
So, I mean, if they're going to keep going with Bob, then I say,
Yeah, I'm good with that. I'm good with that too. To Raw in a minute because we've got some fallout set up for the next pay per view already, all that kind of stuff. But before we move on, I want to know you had expectations for night number one, and obviously you're still saying that night number two delivered over night number one. But was there something on night number one, or maybe even night number two? I don't want to rule that out. Was there something that you had really low expectations of that really surprised you, or something that really jumped out at you that you thought, man, I didn't think that was going to be that good, but I was surprised?
I loved when Bianca took that hair and just whipped the crap out of Sasha. I mean,
Yep.
that sounded awesome. It sounded like a 357 going off
Yep.
in that arena. I mean, that was awesome. I read that Bad Bunny had been training, and I mean, you could tell that he had been training.
Yep.
So I mean, he did impress me.
Yep.
And even the triple threat match, man. I mean, what I thought was going to happen, I mean, it just far exceeded
Sure.
um, my expectations. So
So triple threat match. Since that was both of our favorite matches, let's talk about that for a minute. You got Roman Reigns pinning both guys at the same time. You had, of course, Jey Uso get involved, and they really, really just took it to each, and they all three proved why they belong in the main event of WrestleMania. But man, Roman Reigns continuing his dominance. I thought overall, man, of course, I wanted Edge to win, but absolutely Roman Reigns winning was the right call. Keep that dominance going. Wouldn't you agree?
yeah, I mean, there's no way he could have been more dominant. He pinned both men.
Yep.
Um, and the only thing that I thought was like I was looking at Edge's shoulders and Daniel Bryan's shoulders, and I was like, maybe one shoulder maybe just creeps up just a little bit, and but no, I mean all the shoulders were down. Uh, so I mean Roman beat them both, and I mean
Yep.
um, Jay Uso, he played a big factor in that, man.
Yep.
I mean a lot of people were saying that maybe he played a little too much of a factor. As far as dominance goes, it was basically almost like a two versus one
Right.
triple threat.
Right.
So, I mean, that argument can be made, but the argument cannot be made that Edge's shoulders weren't pinned and that Daniel Bryan's shoulders weren't pinned. So,
Absolutely. That was a point that somebody brought up on our live stream after night number two. Somebody made a comment and they said, well, what about Edge's shoulders? I mean, he was laying on top of Brian. How does he get counted down? And I quickly brought up the fact that one of my favorite matches and one of the most underrated matches that a lot of people don't talk about or have never seen is the December 2003 Monday Night Raw main event between Shawn Michaels and Triple H for the World Heavyweight Championship. If you remember that match, Shawn super kicking Triple H and laying down on top of him, but his shoulders are pinned as well. So in that case, with the guy on top with his shoulders pinned, it's a draw. Well, in a triple threat match, in that case, both guys' shoulders would be pinned and there's a guy on top. So I mean, Roman wins in that scenario. But I will say there's been a little fluff on social media about this. I think Adam Pearce got involved and he, put the emoji of the face. So maybe something comes out of that on SmackDown this Friday. I don't know. But overall, I think call was made. Roman Reigns needed to win that match in that fashion, and you could take Jey Uso out of the equation. Roman Reigns, that was his night to shine.
yep, I agree.
So one other thing that we didn't talk about WrestleMania on night number 2 that I absolutely have to get your opinion on before we move on is Randy Orton, The Fiend, and Alexa Bliss. A lot of craziness happened in this match. The Fiend transforms into the regular. He comes out of the giant Jack in the Box. To me, that was one of the coolest WrestleMania entrances ever. He jumps off the top of the box and clotheslines Randy to get the match started. And then match goes on, whatever. And then Alexa pops out of the box because she's over. When you come out of a box, you're over.
That's what I was thinking the whole time, man. I almost texted you and said, "Well, he came out of a box, so I mean,
He's
he's over,
over.
right?
He's over, right? He's over. He come out of a box.
It's
Anyway,
over.
double cheese.
Double box."
Two box. Anyway, so Alexa comes out of the box and she's got this weird crown with all this black goo coming out, and then it distracts the Fiend, and Randy Orton gets the pin. Thoughts before I start dissecting what I think.
I mean,
did you really hate it that bad?
I mean, Alexa got gooed on. So there's that. I don't know.
Oh my god.
I mean, we're going back to like Papa Shango times here.
Yeah.
I mean, you could see with her little device that she had how like the goo would come down. It looked very cool. I was waiting for like it to go in her eyes and her to be like, "Oh my god!" I mean, I really was watching for that.
She played it well though, man. She really did.
Yeah, she just like stared and like the stuff just like came down, and I mean, she played her part to perfection.
Yeah.
But again, it goes back to Bray Wyatt, the eater of pins. All he does is lose. I mean, I know that they're probably going to try. You're going to say, "Oh, well, it's going to be part of a storyline," and maybe that she took some of his power. Maybe she gave some of his power back. I don't know. Who cares? He lost again. He lost again.
Right. But
to an RKO. One RKO.
That's true. It was only one. You're exactly right. Here's my thing. I'm okay with it because I feel like you said, this is part of a story. And to me, in this situation, the story is more important than the wins or the loss. It's all about furthering the story. And I know you're going to put your head down and you're going to shake your head and you're going to laugh. But the WWE is in the entertainment business. And this was entertainment. Good or bad, doesn't matter which one. This was entertainment. They're telling a story, and this furthers Bray Wyatt, The Fiend, and Alexa Bliss, and takes Randy Orton out of the equation.
Well, I mean, Randy Orton is taking a break, apparently, for a little while. So, yes, right. They were trying to write him out. But why not destroy him? I mean, he burnt this man to a crisp. If you go to Long John Silver's and you order fried fish or fried chicken and they burn it to a crisp, they've done something to this piece of meat. They burn it. It's done. You look at it, it's done. Hey, give it to me. It's done. He's done. And now he's even more done because he lost. He lost again. He's done.
Man, I'm telling you, I don't think wins and losses matter in this situation.
Oh, God.
It just doesn't.
Bruce, get Bruce out of here.
Listen, okay, take Bruce out. We'll take Bruce out of the equation for a minute. Honestly,
you are Bruce. You're Bruce right now. You would have to get up and leave for you to be out of the equation.
Bruce Jr. So add that to my list of nicknames. Anyway, honestly, when I was watching the match, I literally looked like this when it was over with. I just went for like 5 minutes. I could not believe what I just watched. To me, it really was just crazy. And it's the best way I know how to describe it. And it's one of those things where I'm anxious to see where it goes. Go to Monday Night Raw. We see Alexa Bliss. She introduces a new character. I think her name was Lucy. And we get Bray Wyatt in the Firefly Funhouse again. And it seems like that they are going their separate ways, that they're splitting. I don't know. I just feel like that you can only tell the Fiend being dominant. You can only tell that story so many times, because eventually
they haven't told it many times.
Yes, they have, though.
They haven't. Goldberg beat him. Who hasn't beat him?
Yeah, but what happened with that big long reign as champion before Goldberg beat him?
Big long reign.
September to February?
Big long reign.
That's 5 months.
Ooh.
That's 5 months. That's 5 months longer than the Miz held the title the last time.
But the Miz sucks. He's a
The Miz
joke.
doesn't. The Miz does not. He proved it at WrestleMania by carrying Bad Bunny to a great match.
Oh my God, I can't even talk to you.
The Miz is the most underrated wrestler on the WWE roster. You cannot argue that.
I can. He sucks.
Who is? Okay, then. Who is? Who is more
there's all kinds of
underrated than the
underrated
Miz?
people.
Who is
Who?
Yeah, exactly. Who is more underrated and better than the Miz?
Just look at the roster. The Viking Raiders or whatever they're called, they just came back. They're better than the Miz. We saw them. We've seen them. They're better than the Miz. They do power moves.
We also saw the Miz in one of the best triple threat matches in WrestleMania history, open WrestleMania 34, and you said it yourself.
One time
after that match.
Oh, I knew I would regret that. I knew
you said it. And then you also said after you watched the Raw 25th anniversary 24 episode that you are a much bigger fan of the Miz and you appreciate what he does.
But what has he done? What has he done since? I'll put you on the spot. Tell me what he's done since.
He is the only 2-time Grand Slam champion in WWE history.
Who cared?
The only 2-time.
Who cared?
Everybody.
Were people like opening up their notebooks? Oh God, he's 2-time me. Yeah, oh my God, look at him. No, nobody cares.
Listen,
nobody cares.
Listen, I guarantee you that somebody in that booking committee and in creative, I guarantee you they care, or they would not have put him in that spot against Bad Bunny.
He's a good hand. He's a good hand. He's a good wrestler. He's not going to hurt people because he doesn't go out of his little box. You have this little box, and that's what he stays in. And so he's going to continue to coast until he retires, and he's going to stay in his little box, and people are going to go, oh, God, he's 2 or 3 times. Oh, he's won this, he's won that. Oh, my God. But nobody cares. You got little kids watching. They don't care. They're not going to go out and say, oh, God, I have to have a Miz figure. Nobody cares. Nobody. You care. That's it. Sam Roberts, he probably cares. I don't care.
All of us shills, we care, right?
I just,
Anyway, all right, moving right along to the rest of what happened on Monday Night Raw. We kind of touched all over WrestleMania there. The rest of Monday Night Raw, we mentioned Drew and Bob. Drew wins a triple threat match at the main event of Raw over Randy Orton and Braun Strowman to become the number 1 contender and to get another shot at Bob at, I can't wait to get your opinion on this, WrestleMania Backlash.
So we're going to have, I guess, WrestleMania Rumble and WrestleMania Series and WrestleMania Slam.
Yep. All the things.
I don't know, man. I guess Vince just wants to incorporate WrestleMania into everything right now.
Well, I think Backlash really is like the perfect follow-up pay-per-view to WrestleMania because it does make sense. And the WrestleMania is implied to Backlash. I get that. But I don't think you have to actually put the name on there. But
Chill. Oh God. This cough. That's something else.
You need to go get COVID tested. That's what you need. Anyway,
I've already had COVID. I've had my 2 vaccines. I'm good, man.
Okay, whatever.
The whole COVID show.
Oh my gosh, we're going off the rails. All right. Are you good with these 2 guys continuing this feud? It was kind of short leading up to WrestleMania. Are you good with these guys continuing, or would you rather have another challenger for Bob?
So the question is, where does Roman go and where does Bob go? And
we're gonna get to Roman. Let's go.
Well,
Bob
okay. The answer to both of those questions could potentially be Drew, and beyond Drew, you don't really seem to have anybody else at that level. I mean, you do have Daniel Bryan.
Mm-hmm.
but I think that Drew needs to go to SmackDown, and we can dive into that later.
Okay.
Whatever you want to do.
So you would rather see somebody else face Bob instead of
I'm
Drew?
I'm good one more time,
Okay.
but they need a different ending, and
Yep.
I suspect that Drew is once again not going to win.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care. I think that it probably is better to keep the belt on Bob. Drew, he's just a victim of this whole COVID scenario, the same way
Yep.
the rest of us are, man. I mean,
Yep.
no live crowds, so he
Right.
didn't get any huge pops. And so, I mean, there he is. I mean,
Yep.
I don't know.
No, I'm with you. I'm good with them going one more time, but I'm like you. I don't need any more than just one because these two guys and their style, there's only so much you can do,
Right.
between these two. There's only so much you can do. So one more match. I'm like you. I suspect Bob will retain. I think I'm much more in favor of Drew and Bob again, as opposed to Drew and King Corbin for a while and Bob and somebody else. Yeah. So I'm glad we avoided. Before we get to
Oh,
Raw,
that's who's worse than me is King Corbin. Hey, we did find somebody. He's worse than me is, but he's also probably just as underappreciated. If you want to take into account that he is a safe wrestler who stays in his little box.
but Miz
Uh,
is better.
well, okay, whatever.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyway, okay, you mentioned the Viking Raiders a little bit ago. They are nice to see those two guys back on Monday Night Raw. I think that brings up the question, a match that we did not mention at WrestleMania is my boy AJ Styles becoming a Grand Slam champion in the WWE. Almost are the new tag team champions. And if you're looking for those guys, if you're looking at a believable opponent that could take down almost the 7-3 monster, I think the Viking Raiders fit the bill, man. I think that could be a killer feud.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think that whatever that almost is capable of, that he has not shown it yet. I think they are playing it very close to the vest.
Absolutely.
Um, so I mean, I would love to see like the Viking Raiders hoist him up into like
Yes.
a power bomb position and like do some sort of like doomsday device off the top, and I mean just destroy him. I mean that would
That
be
would
awesome.
that would be insane. That would be really
Yes.
cool. The possibilities I think are endless for Rhea Ripley and Asuka. There's another match we didn't mention for Mania. They had a rematch on Raw and it was interrupted by the Queen, Charlotte Flair. She's back. She's now worked her way into the championship picture. It looks like that we're, going down the road for Rhea Charlotte part 2. But this time I do think Rhea gets the win over Charlotte. What are your thoughts on Charlotte reinserting herself into this? Do you want to see Oz?
Charlotte,
Yeah.
Charlotte, come on down, Charlotte, and we will have ourselves another match, Charlotte. Uh, I remember that like last year, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Charlotte,
Yep.
Charlotte, and then
Yep.
Charlotte would be like, "Woo!" and then Charlotte, and that's all I hear in my head. I mean, I
Oh
guess,
gosh.
yeah. I mean, I think it will be a good match, Charlotte versus Rhea.
Yep.
Um, and, and here's something to bring up. Has anybody else noticed that Charlotte suddenly looks so much different in her pictures online? I mean, I don't know if she's had like some cosmetic surgery, maybe she's doing a new
Probably.
diet or something, but she looks different. I just wanted to throw that in there. I don't
It's
know.
probably a mix of all those things. I think Charlotte has had too much of the cosmetics done. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
I think it's very painfully obvious. That's just me. Whatever. Um, I'm gonna stop before I say something, get myself in trouble. But I think that I would like to see Rhea and Asuka go at it one more time before we see Charlotte. I think there are some good possibilities for Rhea on the roster, but I think she should be champion for a long time. This is finally her moment. She needs to be that dominant champion. Let's give Charlotte a break for a little bit. Let's see what Rhea can do with the title. Let's move over to SmackDown real quick. You mentioned Roman Reigns. I certainly want to get into that. What not only Roman Reigns, but what is next for all three of these guys? I'll give you my thoughts first, and then let me know what you think. I think Roman Reigns gets a guy like Cesaro. I think Cesaro put on a really good match at WrestleMania. I think it's deserving of a championship match. Maybe not a long feud, but something to where, Paul Heyman really likes Cesaro, so they could work really well together. At least one match. And then I think we get a singles feud between Edge and Daniel Bryan. I want to see those guys one on one. What's your thoughts on where Edge, Bryan, and Roman go after this?
So the one thing that I kept waiting on to happen, and honestly, whenever Jay came back out, I thought it might be Jimmy. Um,
Yeah, a lot of people I were watching with thought the same thing until he turned around.
so I think there could be something with that. What if you had Jimmy kind of play the role that Jay played, and you have him against Roman for a match
Yeah,
or two?
I think that could
Um,
be cool.
and then I agree with the whole Edge and DB thing. I think that could be pretty sweet. I mean, I would like to see more of that.
Yep,
So,
for sure.
yeah, I
Oh,
agree.
me. Yep, I think so too. Okay. Before we wrap it up, we have to mention NXT Takeover. You weren't able to be on the review show for that. 2 nights, stand and deliver some insane matches. Karrion Kross becoming the NXT champion. Raquel Gonzalez becoming the NXT Women's Champion. A crazy match between Walter and Ciampa. You called it. What an incredible match that was. An awesome ladder match between Santos Escobar and Jordan Devlin. Just give me some of your, not to mention Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly beating the absolute snot out of each other. Just give me some quick thoughts on both nights of NXT.
So it was kind of hit or miss with that. I watched some things that didn't entertain me. Like I said, I was pretty busy with work and everything that's been going on. But
Sure.
I did love the Walter match.
Yes.
Um, I mean, they beat the snot out of each other. I mean, you could
Yep.
see it on their chests.
Yep.
And of course, Adam Cole always delivers.
Sure.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, I just, NXT, usually they put on a really good show. And, you have like your bottom of the barrel here. They're
Mm-hmm.
always like up here.
Mm-hmm.
And then for their main event, they skyrocket. And
For sure.
so that's what they did again. I mean, I
Yep.
thought it was easy to watch. It was fun to watch. I
Yep.
mean, I enjoyed the whole show.
Yep. I thought it was great too. Could easily, both nights really flew by. I think we talked about it on the review show that we kind of looked up and like, oh my gosh, this thing's over already.
Right.
Like, I thought it was great. Kushida and Pete Dunne was really good. I thought Johnny Gargano and Bronson Reed the second night was really good for the NXT North America Championship. Disappointed in the Shotzi Blackheart Ember Moon retaining over Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell. But nonetheless, an absolutely a great takeover. I think both of those nights could have stood alone as one individual takeover, but you put them together, man, they knocked it out of the park. They really did. Set up WrestleMania week really, really nicely. That being said, we're mentioning NXT. It is live right now. So if you are, we're going to cover some NXT, just some results so far. MSK retained the NXT Tag Team Championships over Killian Dane and Drake Maverick. Right now, currently, there's a great match going on between Santos Escobar and Kushida. So I'm pumped to rewatch that one and to really get to focus on that. But that's where we are with NXT right now. We will try to do better as far as getting you results and giving you opinions on that since we record on NXT night. That being said, though, man, it is time to put a bow on this week's episode. But before we do, we got to bring it back. The segment of all segments, the high spots and turd sandwiches. Every single week, we got to give out our awards for the best moments of the week and the worst. And it has been a jam-packed week, man. We're talking Raw, NXT, both nights, SmackDown, both nights of WrestleMania. If you had to hand out the turd sandwich, your worst moment of all the whole week, well, who would you give it to?
Miz.
Listen, listen. For those of
Hell,
you,
man. I can't.
For those of you who are listening and or watching our show, Jared and I have this running joke where we like to say, man, there are some things that you just set me up for and you expect me to slam it home. And without even talking about it, it happens. Ladies and gentlemen, I just set Jared up for an alley-oop and he slammed it home. Kudos to Jared for saying exactly what I wanted him to say. My turd sandwich of the week. Oh my gosh, this is difficult. I'm going to say everything that involved the women's tag teams on the WrestleMania card. I could have done without that both nights. I thought the Riot Squad had a decent showing, but overall, the whole thing was just this. Ugh, it just wasn't good. It literally wasted my time.
I'll hand out a turd sandwich.
Okay.
For real.
Okay.
The crowd responding to Hulk Hogan. You know, I mean, this whole thing, they've cheered him, they booed him. The poor man comes back. I mean, he's done what he can to make up for his wrongdoings.
Yep.
But he trots out there dressed up as a friggin' pirate. I mean, they trot him out there and just boos every time the man tries to speak. So the turd sandwich, I say, goes to the crowd for that, because I just you can't. You either have to boo him all the time or cheer him all the time at this point. I mean, it's one way or the other.
Well, let me ask you this about Hogan. Do you think it's because they knew it was coming? Because at WrestleMania 35, when we were there, we didn't know it was coming, and the roof blew off the place when that music hit. Do you think that's the reason?
Probably.
Okay.
Probably.
All right. Yeah. High spot of the week. I know we have rant and raved about the triple threat match. We have rant and raved about Sasha and Bianca and all these other things, NXT TakeOver and yada, yada, yada. Number one high spot of the week goes to what?
So it's going to have to be the triple threat match on night 2 of WrestleMania. Okay. I think the high spot was Roman stacking up both of his opponents and beating them both in a very decisive manner. I think that's the high spot.
I'm going to go with something you might not expect me to go with. If you listen to episode 1 of season 2, the comeback tour, whatever you want to call it, last week when you and I previewed WrestleMania and NXT TakeOver, I told you there was a match that I really, really wanted to be into, but I just couldn't. But my high spot of the week is Tommaso Ciampa against Walter from NXT TakeOver. That match blew me away. Now, I loved Sasha and Bianca. I love the Roman Reigns triple threat stuff. Don't get me wrong. I loved it. But as far as the bar of expectations that I had and really blowing me away and really entertaining me, Walter and Ciampa for me.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, it was great.
High spot.
Yeah.
All right, man.
That makes me want a Walter figure too. Ooh.
They are available at Ringside sponsorship. Anyway, so
hey us.
I don't know what you're talking about. I mean, we just love wrestling figures, and we'll talk about them all the time. Stay tuned. Anyway, so as we get ready to sign off, man, anything else you want to add before we close up shop for the week?
No, I mean, I just hope that I hope that in the weeks to come that they can keep everybody on this WrestleMania high. I mean, we do technically have another WrestleMania coming up. It's WrestleMania Backlash, so let's keep this high going. And I mean, that's all I can really ask for.
All right, man. Make sure you guys follow us all over social media. We are at PBW Podcast. Make sure that you download every Monday and Wednesday. Speaking of next Monday, Jared and I will be back with you for our first of Kicking It Old School Monday, and we're going to talk all about Chris Jericho on the Broken Skull Sessions. We touched on it last week. It is 2 hours of glorious wrestling content, and we're going to talk all about it this coming Monday. You can find our show anywhere you find your podcast. If you want the video version, check out YouTube. It is right there. Make sure you buy a t-shirt, prowrestlingtees.com/PBW podcast. I'll throw this graphic up there again. Spring Fling for your 20% off. And if you forget all the things that I've told you, make sure that you read the little ticker down below. It tells you everything you need to know. For my brother from another mother, Jared Justice, this is the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast. I am Chris Belcher, your phenomenal host. We are giving you the Larry Sabisco sign off, and we will see you guys down the road. All right.